Um, we will move on to our next presentation with our data dissemination specialist, Miss Lacey Lofton. She is the Arizona Data Dissemination Specialist, um, and she's with the Dissemination branch of the U.S. Census Bureau. So, Lacey, take it away.
Good morning, and thank you, Alan. It's actually fun having so many colleagues that I work so closely with here. So excellent presentation from the Denver Regional Office. Always hard to follow that group, and I'm right before Chuck Brady too. So I'm going to be playing middleman. I've seen a lot of names that I've only been covering Arizona for about a year now. I've been with the Bureau for 20, but it's been a really exciting new area for me to explore and to start meeting all of you. It's fun seeing names that I can already put a face with. But I'm excited to be here because I want to introduce who we are in our branch, what our purpose is, and walk you through a lot of the resources that we have through Census Academy. So as Alan mentioned, my name is Lacey Lofton. I'm a statistician. I'm technically a headquarters employee, but I live in Austin, Texas, so I'm not too far from you guys. It's a nice, quick flight over. So when we start doing things in person again, I'm looking forward to being there. I'm a data dissemination specialist with a branch of people. It's our job to make sure that every single person in the country has access to the data that we produce and knows how to access it and use it appropriately. So while we try to focus on organizations that have a reach, we work with partners and trusted voices in the community. Every single one of you is one of those voices. So I'm excited to be here and hopefully get to know you, get to know your constituencies, and see where we can help out and where we might be able to fill some data gaps that hopefully we have more tools and resources for. Actually, every day, as they were mentioning, we still have information coming out. We're gonna focus on Census Academy, but as Vicki mentioned, we just updated our website. And what's really funny is until 2 weeks ago, it wasn't even showing correctly on my browser. So hopefully, for those of you who have been to our website recently, it is not a huge change in navigation. It took me a few minutes, a few days to really get used to how it navigates, but I do actually like it better than the former data.census.gov. So I'm sorry, Census.Gov. So we'll do a quick walkthrough of that. Then we'll go through all of the resources that are available through Census Academy. And then we'll talk about the presentations and workshops that are offered directly to you or your organization. So we have a whole lot. We're constantly building new media, new programs, new products, and actually new courses. We also have webinars, but then also if you're group of people, whether it's your local chamber of commerce, your local government, a university that wants somebody to speak to a class, if it's specific or if you really want some back and forth and some one-on-one time, that's what data dissemination specialists do. So that's my job. I cover Arizona as well as parts of Texas, but we'll just jump in here and start with our webpage. The main navigation isn't all that different for those of you, and actually hopefully can everybody see my screen before I just start talking? Anybody?
It looks good.
Can you hear me? Okay, I was like, can anybody hear me now that I've gone on my rant about that? Thanks, Jim. So again, the main drop-down menus here aren't that different, but the navigation it was enough to trip me up, so I want to walk everyone through it just to show you what we have. Right here under topics, this is where if you're thinking, hey, I just want to know more about XYZ, and you can enter the topic here. You go click on one of these, and it really will take you to a fairly human, user-friendly area where you can learn about the data that we have, the programs that we have for those topics, and access not only the data, but the methodologies. It's also a great place, say, I'm just going to use education because that's always a popular one. If you are looking for education information, it'll tell you about how we collect the information, what different surveys collect information that produce educational information, and it'll also have like visuals, so infographics or any trainings that we've done that are related. Some of these things will be duplicated across different areas on the site. We're not doing it just to make it look like we have more than we do. It's just, I think that we've done a better job moving forward about ensuring that if something's relative to a topic, that it's located in every place that you might be looking. You used to really in the past have to know where to go and how to find something. I think the new website, the way it's launched now and the way that it navigates, does a lot better job of tying all of those things together. So these are obviously not all of the topics that we produce or collect data on, but they are the most commonly requested or most commonly chosen when people are searching on our website. We use a lot of website analytics to figure out exactly what we should be populating with these menus. But if you ever get stuck, if you're ever here and you see you want something that's not here, just give me a call and we'll see if we have it, and if we do, I'll get you to that resource. This index A to Z is very long. I'm not going to click on it. It doesn't do a great job showing to a group on a webinar, but it really does go in depth. So if you don't see it here, go there. It goes into just a lot of specifics, and some of them overlap, some of them cross. One of the reasons that I use the index most often is if I'm trying to come up with the right word, right? Like it's like if you're grocery shopping online and you're trying to come up with a word to describe what you mean. Reading through this list really will sometimes help you focus on what you're intending to look for and then help you find it. Datas and maps, definitely my favorite section of the website. Hopefully that applies to many of you as well. Just on the list here, we have Census Academy. That's one we're going to be talking about. Information about combining data. Data equity tools is kind of a new thing that's not true. It's not new, but it's something we've certainly been expanding. So we have new tools and resources that are available there. Data tools and apps, I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow, but I'll just give you a little teaser in a minute and walk through how you can find those tools that we have available. We have information for developers, so specifically people that may be using our API to create an app or something really in depth. The developer section is actually really good. It has a lot of really good resources there. Experimental data products, a lot of these are newer and they came out a lot during the pandemic when we were trying to quickly release data that could be used immediately so people could understand how the pandemic was affecting households and individuals and businesses and industries. That data can be found under experimental data products. We get this question a lot. The reason that we call them experimental is they didn't go through some of the processes that, like, say, the American Community Survey did. And that's okay. We were in a hurry to produce data that was useful. And so we used some different methodologies. We focused on email addresses that we had to reach households, but that is why they're called the experimental data products. They're still really cool and they're really good data sources, especially to look at the trends over time during the pandemic. Interactive maps, this is right up Jim's alley. We've gotten better about mapping our data recently. We have a lot of tools. Again, I'll go into more in depth on that tomorrow, but this is a great place to start if you're looking. Our mapping files, these are less flashy, more referenced and more specific, if you're really looking to see what the boundaries of your city are or what your boundaries of your county are. Those are going to be reference maps. They'll be found under your mapping files. There's also plenty of other places you can find those as well. I'm sure Jim would be happy to fill in the blanks there. If you ever have questions, you can reach out to either of us. For software and tables, we're going to actually talk about both of those things tomorrow. But I do want to focus here on training and workshops. That's what we do. That's our job. We will customize these however they're needed, but we also have a long list that are already recorded and available. So if it's, say, 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning and you are just desperate to know about the American Community Survey and the coolest way that you can use it, I probably won't answer my phone, but we do have some resources for those big topics that you can find under trainings and workshops. And then, honestly, one of the coolest sections and something that we've been, especially over the last 10 years, really it's become more rich and there's a lot more products there. And what's kind of fun now is that we've got a timeline of them, right? When we first started producing these really cool visualizations, it was awesome, but it was kind of a point in time. If you're looking to see visually some of the data that we're producing, you can go to this visualizations section and it will show you what we've released most recently, but we also have, you can go back year to year, it's listed year to year, so you can see how things have changed. Here we go. I know Kaneen is coming on, I think, just tomorrow to talk about data.census.gov. So I'm going to skip right over this, but I do want to show you all the data resources because this is where I spend most of my time when I'm on our website, and I think we're, hopefully this will be something that's useful to you as well. So at the very top, we have the things that are most commonly resources that are needed by census data users. This will change. So right now we have data profiles. These are from the American Community Survey. We also have tables and maps. and then of course 2020 census data. It's amazing how quickly 2020 seems far away and how close 2030 feels now, but we do actually still have lots and lots of products being produced for the 2020 census, and those will be here. As the decade progresses, as we have new releases, this will change to reflect those new tools and new data products. So just come back, and usually whatever you're looking for, if there's a new release, it'll be up here at the top. Here is a list. Here's the data tools. I'm going to show you this. We'll walk through a couple of my very favorites tomorrow, and hopefully the ones that will be your favorites as well. But I did want to point this out. If you are looking, because we changed the navigation, if you have a favorite tool, I think the phone calls I've had the last 3 weeks are, where did you put my favorite tool? This is my favorite tool. This is where you can find the entire list. We are looking to consolidate some of these tools. Data.Census.Gov has was able to pull a lot of different abilities into one platform. We're trying to make it more one-stop shopish, so that if you just want data, you can go. We're trying to consolidate our tools that way. But if you have a favorite, if you want to stick to something that you already know, this is where you can go find the entire list. Surveys and programs. This is Vicki McIntyre's bread and butter right here. The Denver Regional Office, as most of you know, run all of the, not all of them, but almost all of the surveys and censuses for the Denver region, which covers Arizona. They have a huge staff of field reps going out every day to follow up with households that have not responded. And here is a list of some of them. There are 130 going on. I think I already said that, but there's around 130 surveys and censuses we're conducting at all times. So a lot of those are housing, a lot of those are population, a lot of them are economic as well. Chuck will talk about the more in just a few minutes. But here is a list of the most commonly asked about surveys and censuses. So if you get something in the mail, or you have somebody, one of your constituents or colleagues asking, this is a good place to start. If you get a question, and this happened to me recently, and I was embarrassed by it, and you think you know all the census surveys and censuses, click on this, and it will give you the entire list of everything that we currently have going on. I actually got a call from my aunt, and she asked if this was a real survey, and I was like, I don't think I know that one. And luckily, I came back here. I will be hearing about that for the next several holidays that we get together. But here's the entire list. So it's a great resource when you hear from somebody who wants to know, hey, is this real? Is this a scam? What is this data being used for? Really quickly, I want to point to the American Community Survey before we get into the resources and the Census Academy. It is the most high profile, especially because we have so many field reps in the field for household surveys. So it's really something that you probably get calls about, you get questions about. And there are a couple things here that will mirror, again, when we're looking at the Census Academy website, but I think this is worth focusing on in itself. There's a lot of just overview information here. You can certainly send people to it. But my favorite tool that we have here, and this information guide is something that it's big enough and it's small enough, and it's something that I share a lot with people. So it's in-depth enough where you feel like you're getting a really good overview of the ACS, and it's not the 140-page methodologies paper that I actually love. But it is something that is manageable but detailed enough. It really does hit that sweet spot really well. So if either you're new to the American Community Survey, or if you want more information about the American Community Survey, or somebody that you're talking to does, this is a really great resource to kind of say, okay, here's as much as you probably need to know without burying them in paperwork. Okay, before I move on to our resources library, are there any questions? And I actually can't see the chat right now, Alan. So if you just let me know if you see anything.
I haven't seen anything
okay.
yet.
Very good. Okay, so last but not least, the reason that I'm supposed to be here, now that I've covered all the reasons I'm not, under our resource library. So again, we have been trying hard to make sure that there are resources at your fingertips that are useful, not only on our past releases, but we're getting better about releasing information, releasing videos with a data release, so that once the data is available, there's also an explanation to go along with it. America Count Stories, I'll just go through the list here really quickly. The America Count Stories are stories about people actively using different data products that the Census Bureau produces. You can find those here. There's some audio and blogs as well. Specifically, the blog section is a really great place to find out about breaking news, or if we've released something that's brand new. As Jim was just discussing, some of the 2020 information about the operational, how we ran the operations, when those new releases come out. The blog, usually the director or somebody within the Census Bureau will write a blog about them. So it's quick, it's easy, and it's, you know, in order. So that's a great place. If you hear about something new that just came out, go check out our blog section. You can also subscribe to any of this. By the numbers, again, that's really looking at how data is applied actively to different areas. Fact sheets, these are really good one-pagers, depending on the release that we have. You can look here, and then infographics and visualizations. These are so good at explaining data better than I ever could, and especially some of the data that is not necessarily as publicly known. When we release the data, we'll also release infographics, which will really help explain what the data is used for and give you another angle for it. Photos and publications are pretty straightforward. Spotlights, again, are usually kind of breaking news. And here we're going to jump in and focus on training for Census Academy. All right, so Census Academy was started by one of my colleagues in the Data Dissemination and Training branch. Many of you may know Alexandra. You're about to see her picture all over here. She does a lot of the videos, and then during the pandemic when we weren't traveling, she was doing almost all of the videos herself. So you'll see her throughout this. But this was originally started, was we realized, and then we increased it during the pandemic, that we can't always be everywhere at once. So there's about 35 of us, I think, nationwide, and we would love to be everywhere, and we'd love to be in every room, and that's not always possible. We also, you know, have semi-normal business hours. I don't know if exactly normal business hours, but there are plenty of people who are researching late into the night, on the weekends when we're not as available. So we were trying to make resources that you could just come to and find out about whenever you needed to. And that would be really as short or as in-depth as you wanted. To start on the short side are our data gems. These are really short, quick, and to the point. And they're just supposed to hit on a simple topic. We're going to go in order here of complexity. There's Alexandra and then Mary, who they actually look similar. They were two that had the camera equipment during the pandemic. Here's Eric Coyle, for those of you who know him. He's actually still with the branch, with the directorate, and he's just on a temporary detail, so you hopefully will see him again. But that's Eric, for those of you who know him. He covered Arizona. But these, and you can see this, like how to access population estimates for cities and towns. So this isn't how to use data.census.gov. This is not, you know, all about the American Community Survey. This is where you come if, say, you get stuck within a tool or you get a question, losing my voice already. If you get stuck in a tool with navigational problems or you get a really specific question, these answer all of the very specific questions that we consistently got. And so these are snippets there. So these come out really rapidly as well. These are some, our data gems, we're trying to release them with data. It's not always a perfect world. It's not always easy to do that because we don't have access to the data any earlier than the embargoes ourselves. So sometimes there's a little bit of a lag, but we're getting really close. So when you have another major ACS release or there's a new tool that's released, you should be able to come here and find out how to do some basic things or understand some basic concepts that might not be intuitive. Our webinars, here we go, I guess I'm gonna come here. So under webinars, I actually headed this program a couple years ago, and it's a really cool one. This is another program that has evolved over time. So I think we started doing this around 2010. And what we realized is, hey, sometimes you're in front of the room and you're giving this awesome presentation, and then it just kind of goes away and it might be useful for other people. And we also realized that our presentations were sometimes being recorded and then disseminated, which was fine too, but we wanted to make them a little more polished, a little more controlled. And so these are a lot of the presentations that data dissemination specialists were doing, but then specifically done for this national webinar series. So the national webinar series, we still have these coming out a couple of months. You can subscribe and we'll let you know what's coming out. But this is not only just our group, but so Angelo, for example, and Chuck, for example, that are here today. They do a lot of presentations on the economic census, economic surveys, promoting participation in those. Those are archived here as well. So it's a really rich resource for your recorded webinars. The one downside about the specific website is we don't have a whole lot of great navigation. It's very hard. It's not easy to search. We all get to come up with our own names for our webinars, and so sometimes they can be, you know, very specific to our own personalities. So it can be a little bit hard to, like I did one that was to nest, or Jim and I did one, to nest or not to nest was the title. And looking back, Jim, maybe we should have made it something that was a little more intuitive to search for. So you might have to go through the list to actually see these, but this is where you will find all of those. Again, we're doing 2 or 3 a month of these just within the data dissemination and training branch. They are usually a national scope. So if we're talking about the new ACS release, or if you're talking about nesting geographies, for example, we are trying to hit a large audience with these, but it's a great place to start. And so if you're, watching one of these webinars, please excuse all of our, weird facial freezes. I feel like all these start when somebody's like, it can be a little disconcerting, but stick with us. The beginnings are a little rough. But if you see a webinar that you really like, but you want it specific to, say, Yuma, or you want it specific to the state of Arizona, just reach out to me, and we'll specifically get something for your group, either in person or, we can do it virtually too, depending on what's best for you. I'm not going to scroll through this whole list, but this is a really, really good starting point. These, again, are the recorded. We are just about to start our next. I'm going to say, I'm not sure that anything's, there's not going to be a whole lot listed here for the months going forward, simply because we are our fiscal year just started. So we start really ramping these up. January through October is when we're producing the most webinars, but you'll see here administrative data 101, especially with that data release that we just had last week. This is something we're getting a lot of questions about, so we have a webinar coming up about it. Administrative data and the U.S. economy. Again, because it's a hot topic, we've scheduled a webinar for it. So this is another place where if you have questions, if you have a new topic, if you see something in kind of, census breaking news, this is a place where hopefully we'll have something to support. When we get a lot of the same questions, this is where we'll put those resources. Our course section is your much more in-depth information about a specific topic or a tool. So genealogy, this is an excellent one done by my colleague Noemi. This talks about researching Census Bureau records that are now publicly available, and touches on some other historical data as well. Analyzing census data in SAS. This is actually one that I worked on closely with a colleague on. This one is, I think it's several hours, and it's a really good starting place. What's funny is I used SAS a lot in college. College was a very long time ago for me now. And so it was a good exercise for me to not only be working on it, but then when I went back and watched the finished product, I actually learned a lot or remembered a lot. So this is another great tool if you're either using SAS or have colleagues that are, but it also is very specific to census data. So you might use SAS, but not specifically with the data or the resources as we have them on our website. This is a great place to go find those tips and tricks. Redistricting data. I watched this start to finish and learned a lot. This is my 20th year with the Census Bureau. I wouldn't have believed that I could have learned so much about something I thought I really knew front to back. This is a very in-depth course on the redistricting data. It's a great resource. Even if you think you know everything there is to possibly know about it, I found out I was wrong. Hopefully, I'm not the only one. There's a lot there. There's a lot you can learn. Accessing redistricting files. Again, this is one that, especially right when the data came out and it wasn't available through some of our other tools, this was really helpful. We have information on using census data with ours, open mapping. Again, I don't want to sit here and read the entire thing to you, but I did want you to understand what options we have. And again, these are really good courses. We've even had some people that are able to use them as like credit through ongoing education. So if your company or your government, whoever you work for, requires that, these might be able to work for you there too. Okay, so under resources, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here, but we do have data.census.gov. You can go directly to there. That is our main data platform. Again, we have a team talking about that tomorrow morning. Sorry, I'm Central Time. It's tomorrow morning for most of you. Walking through data.census.gov, data equity products. The surveys and topics, the one-pagers are really good. They do a good job of recapping our surveys, honestly, better than I can in most cases, and they're also great to hand off to constituents if needed. Then we have redistricting, video tutorials, and visualizations. Okay, I'm coming back to over here within Census Academy. I know a lot of this is redundant, but I want to focus specifically on requesting a training. So again, there's about 35, I think it's 35. We've really been ramping up post-census. We had a lot of people retiring, just like Vicki and Jim are threatening to, and Barb, I know you were threatening to retire when we were starting this off. We do have a lot of people retire right after the decennial census. So we are in the process of hiring more data dissemination specialists. But I think we have it's between 30 and 35 on board now. A lot of those are still in training, but we will have more and more people throughout the country to work with your organizations that should be close to you and really know the data for your area very well. And I'm going to walk through this list of what we have available for your local organizations. You can come fill this out. This is where you would fill out information about you and your job and where you work, and then what event details you'd like. This will end up just coming directly to me. So you're totally welcome to use, that's not true. It'll come through, a colleague of mine will send this to me. So feel free to fill this out. If that's your favorite way to do it, you can absolutely do that, or you're welcome to just email me directly. It'll end up in the same place either way. But we have this whole entire list of workshops that are available. And this may seem a little not big enough. I want to walk through these quickly, semi-quickly. It's about 3 pages, but I'm hoping that I can highlight some of these and make you think like, oh, hey, that might actually apply to my organization. I didn't know that data tool was available. That's something that I think we might be interested in. So, and I'd love to take some questions. I know I've been talking a lot. So if anybody has any questions, or if any of my colleagues on the line want to jump in, like I said, I know Angelo and Chuck focus a lot on presentations dealing with the economic side of the data, censuses and surveys that we do. If Jim, Vicki, and Tamia are still on, Tamia definitely handles all the 2030 and is probably very tired already. Can't imagine how you'll feel in 8 years, Tamia. And then Jim handles most of the geographic presentations and conversations we have for Arizona as well. So community by the numbers, this is an interesting, these are titles that we made up. These can be customized. They can be exactly how you want them to be. But again, data.census.gov is our new main platform. It replaced American Fact Finder. For those of you who may not have used it recently, I'll just mention, I know it was something that was building. It was when we first released it, it was a little glitchy. There were definitely some frustrations with the tool. It's really cool now. I feel like it functions very well the vast majority of the time, unless something is happening behind the scenes. It functions very well. It has its mapping features built in. It has a lot more functionality for choosing like all geographies within another, so say all zip codes within the state. So if you haven't been there for a while, I encourage you to come back tomorrow. Kaneen will walk you through this in a much better way than I ever could, but it really has been updated very well. Making sense of the American Community Survey. The ACS is the survey that I do the most presentations on. It is technically part of the decennial census. So therefore it's required by law. And it is conducted every single month in every single county or county equivalent nationwide. And then we have 2 major data releases a year from the ACS. What's really cool about the ACS, for those of you who might be new to it, are where the decennial census really shows you where people live. And gives you some very basic information about those people for redistricting purposes. The ACS really tells you how people are living. So you can find out what industries people work in, how they get to work. Are people, what's the highest level of educational attainment, but then also who's enrolled in school. Lots of information about income. We have information about veterans. It's a really, really rich source of data. Because it is such a huge survey, it is a survey, it's not a census, but because it's so big, the margins of error are relatively small, and we're still able to publish it down to the census block group level. So that's probably the most popular we have. And again, we'd focus on your area, your constituents, and the topics that are most interesting to you. Data on a deadline. This is for people who want answers quickly, but consistently, right? If you just want to know a specific data point, you can call me, I'll get that for you. But if you're going to consistently be looking for updated data, so reporters are an obvious option here, but then also if you are somebody who's just constantly getting calls from your constituents with questions and you need a quick answer, this is another really good one. It walks through our quickest and easiest data tools and how to access and find the information you need quickly.
Lacey,
Yeah.
two things. There is a question from.
Excellent. What is it?
Well, I don't have it. His name is Henry.
Oh.
Please unmute
Henry.
and ask your question. And are you changing slides? Because if you are, they're not. We're still on the one that had all of these, like data access and cross tabulation.
Oh, interesting.
The slide is changing for me.
Okay, you can see the workshop menu, Jim?
Yeah, I can see the menu, and as you're scrolling, it's working on my end.
Yes, it's working on my end also.
Okay.
Okay.
But we do have a question. So Henry, if you would unmute
Henry,
and ask your question.
And hopefully it's not, are you scrolling? I'm sorry for those of you who might be not seeing what I'm talking about. I will drop this PDF in the chat so that you have it as well. Henry, are you there? We can't hear you if you're talking. Okay, I tell you what, Henry, you can unmute at any time if you have a question or drop it in the chat. We'll come back to you. Oh, wait.
Hi, I have a question.
Is that you? Yeah, sure.
No, this is not Henry. I raised my hand earlier.
Okay.
So I wanted to find out about being more about booking the training for an organization. So it sounds as though, I'm so happy that I actually joined this, but it sounds as though if I have a business that I'm trying to launch, that this would be best to find out where my marketing efforts should go. I could use it for something like that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's funny is literally the next one on this list specifically is this tool is created for people that either are looking to grow or start a business. But yes, absolutely. Tomorrow we're going to do a demo walkthrough of that tool. So again, I'm happy to work with you one-on-one if you're looking to start a business or grow a business. Also, if you've got more people that are going to be working with you on those efforts, we can certainly bring a group together as well. But all this data is free. It's publicly available. You've already paid for it. And it's my job to make sure that you have access to it. So that's exactly what we're here for. Yeah.
Okay, yes, I am going to book a training. My name is Catherine Mitchell, by the way. Thank you.
I will write that down. Thank you, Catherine.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. And then was there anybody else? I can't see actually the hands up in the chat while I'm scrolling through this. So if anybody else wants to jump in and let me know if you have any questions. Okay, don't feel free to interrupt me. I'm going to keep going, but there's
Henry,
feel free to.
Lacey, Henry put his question. He said, I cannot mute. Sorry. Please provide me with your email. Mine is, and he gave his email in the chat.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, after I finish talking, because I'm not good at talking and typing at the same time, I will include a couple of these website links with and then my email, my phone number as well.
I put the ones in for you for the webinars, Census Academy, Data Gems, all of those.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Barb.
You're welcome.
Very good. Okay, so and thank you, Catherine. You really couldn't have given me a better segue if we had planned it. This next tool is, I mean, seriously, it was like, oh, and there it is right there. So Census Business Builder, our recently retired, who I was positive he would never actually retired, colleague Andy Haight, created Census Business Builder. There are two versions of it. So it was originally created for people that were looking to start or grow a business. We will go into this live tomorrow, so come back and join us then. But we really quickly, it pulls data from the census, from the American Community Survey, from a lot of our permitting surveys. It also has information from a lot of our economic surveys and censuses. What I love about this tool is, unlike some of our more data-heavy platforms, this pulls in information from all over and creates I think it's 13-page report that looks really good. It's really easy to hand off. It literally can be your business plan or your grant proposal or your funding proposal. And it pulls it from all these different areas. You used to have to say, go, pull data from the economic census and pull data from all these different places and then try to combine it yourself into a way that looked nice. The other nice thing about this is because it is a report that's coming directly from our website, because it's replicable. Any of those annoying questions you might get from somebody that you hand a report off to about like double checking your work, this is already done for you. All the calculations are done for you, and it's in something that looks very official. So it might cut back on some of those questions for you. So the first version focuses on a specific industry and will tell you basically market analysis depending on whatever geography you choose. And then there's a second version, because it was being used so often by different groups and organizations, that's called Regional Analyst Edition, and it will let you combine as many geographies as you want and do an analysis that way as well. So it takes the industry part out of it and just focuses on the humans, housing, and the economy for an area. MDAT, this is a new one, and I'm hoping Kaneen will have time to touch on this tomorrow when she's talking about data.census.gov. This is one of my favorite brand new tools. This actually lets you, for the PUMA level, for those of you who are using microdata from the American Community Survey, it makes it really user-friendly. So it's pulling from the API, but it creates tables for you in a much more human-friendly way. And this is actually where I go sometimes too. When we have a variable number or a name, it does a good job of using human being terms to connect variables that aren't necessarily intuitive, even if you've been doing this for a very long time. Taking America's pulse during the COVID-19 pandemic, this has the two main surveys that we released, our pulse surveys, and then a lot of other resources that we created from data that we already had that were really heavily used during the pandemic, but still are today. Veterans by the numbers. This is, I feel like our veteran data is overlooked often, or people just don't realize we have it. We have really rich information about our veterans, again, down to the block group level. So this, we can spend hours talking about veterans in your area. That's one of our options as well. Data on a deadline. This is just specifically for journalists, but it can be for anybody that needs data quickly and consistently. On the MAP and LEHD products, my colleague Erlene is going to talk about these tomorrow. This has a really rich data set. It is really interesting. It uses information about where people live and where they work using unemployment records from the states. So it does a lot of analysis on that. So I know the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality uses this information so that in case there is an emergency or there is a bad air day, you can tell not where people are sleeping, but where they might be through the day. There's a lot of applications here, and she's going to go through this. So again, if you have time tomorrow, please come back. I know, Alan, you're saying there's already a very wide attendance here. I hope I can convince some of you to come back for the presentations that we have coming up. It's a really neat one. On the map for emergency management, this is a fairly, although, I've been here for so long, I start saying things like fairly new, and I'm not even sure if that's true anymore. But we've created more tools around quickly looking at areas that were affected by natural disasters. So if you're in Colorado, unfortunately, that might mean wildfires, avalanches. There seems to be an avalanche every time I'm in Colorado. For us in Texas, that could mean hurricanes, tornadoes, things like that. So this is a place that will gather information based on emergency response. Community by the numbers, we've got race, ethnicity, ancestry, and the foreign-born populations. The reason we highlight this here, and again, these can be completely custom made to you or your organization, the way that we collect race and ethnicity data is not always intuitive, and neither is the way we publish it for the general public or even people that use our data a lot. So this really focuses on those definitions. What do we mean by race? What do we mean by ethnicity? What do we mean by ancestry? Because for most of us, just in normal human conversations, there's a lot of overlap there. So we talk about where there is overlap in the data, how it's collected, and how it's published. Your tribal nations, I know Vicki discussed some of the tribal outreach that's going on from the Denver regional office. This is a fairly new tool. This is the last 5-ish years. This came out, and it's a really great place to just pull quick and easy data that just focuses on your tribal area. We have a My Congressional District that I think is listed here as well that does a very similar job. It makes a really nice, really cool product, and it's really quick and it's really easy. Hispanics by the number, again, so this will focus on the difference between race and ethnicity as it applies to the data. Hispanic or not is ethnicity, not race. So we can go in to do a really in-depth look at the Hispanic population in an area. This is Jim's. This is much more up Jim's alley, but talking about mapping and all sorts of the geography products and programs that we have. So if you want to know about Tiger, if you want to know about the interactive maps we have, if you want to know about the reference maps we have, if you want to know about how we ingest and update those boundaries for our censuses and surveys, and then very specifically how it's published. One of the questions we get a lot is, okay, so if the boundary for a city changes, how does the data change and when does it change? This will go into all of that information. The tracks, block groups and blocks are obviously statistical geographies. We have that. We also have some that focus on political and legal geographies and how they come to be, how to access them, and then how we publish data for them. Hack the census. This is something, we haven't used this as much as I thought we were going to. What I've kind of learned about people that use the API is if you know how to use an API, you know how to use an API, and you don't really end up calling me all that much. But if you do have something, usually if you're using an API, again, you're familiar with APIs, but if you have specific census questions about we have a lot of APIs now. It feels like we're releasing them constantly, how to best access them, things about variables, things like that. This will focus on that. Income and poverty statistics, those change how we publish them over the last couple of decades. So this gets in depth about what's published and how it's changed over time specifically so you can make those comparisons. Exploring Census.Gov. We did a very short version of that just now, and that changes every time our website changes. We get a lot of requests for that because everybody kind of stumbling around in the dark. We are too, from my position as well. But if we change it again, or if you want something more in depth, you can certainly reach out. All about people from the Caribbean. So we have, we collect for states, we collect for a lot of island areas as well. We have information there. All right, we're getting close to the end here. America's aging population. It's fascinating to watch how the demographic trends, specifically with age, are moving across the country, but it's really cool and really fun to look at it for your specific localized area. So I recently did one of these for the city of Austin. It's really neat to just see how your trends compare to national, and how that might really have impacts and the policies and getting the information you need to make sure that you understand and then are navigating appropriately with with the years to come. Accessing health needs of your community. This is something we have a lot more rich data about since the Affordable Care Act. This became much more of a hot topic during the pandemic. We still offer this. And then stats in your classroom. I actually was in DC working on stats in schools for a while. I love this program. I, again, don't feel like as many people know about it, but if you are in education or you have a family or friend, a member of your family or friend that is a teacher or administrator, the Census Bureau produces really cool tools that can be used directly in the classroom. So we have worksheets and we have interactive tools and lesson plans that you can bring into the classroom. They're all free. They're all publicly available. We can walk you through that. And then last but not least, life cycle of a piece of data. This will start you at the very beginning. How did the American Community Survey, this is the example here, but we could do it for any other survey or census as well. How did the survey happen? Why is the survey or census happening? What is the purpose? Then how is it collected? How is it tabulated? And then how is it disseminated? One of the things I think is most important when you're looking at data really in depth is to understand how it was collected, because when you understand how it was collected, it's a lot easier to understand what you're looking at and how it's tabulated. So this will walk you through that entire life cycle process. I know here it has the American Community Survey, but I Chuck and Angelo, I'm sure would be happy to walk you through the economic census or some of our economic surveys as well. Whatever you're looking for, we can. If it's not me, hopefully I can answer most of your questions. But I will also. I'm lucky enough to have worked with a lot of great people over the last couple of decades. If I can't help you, I know somebody smarter than me who can. So, okay, with that, I know I still have 8 minutes. What questions do you guys have? I really wanted to put this out there. I know this is a lot of information. Like I said, I'll drop this in the chat. But does anyone have any questions about what we do, presentations that are available, or just questions like, hey, does this data exist? Is this something, that we even have? Anybody at all? Nobody? Hopefully I'm not disconnected here. I was like, is there anybody still there?
Feel free to raise your hands and we'll, or you
Hi.
can, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Catherine again. Why? Hi, why is there such a huge push right now to kind of inform the public of the services of the Census Bureau? Are these services like super new to where you're trying to get it out there? Because I'm sure every business owner would love to learn about how they can just kind of get help researching or market research.
I love your enthusiasm. I wish that every business owner was as enthusiastic. It's actually not new. So we've had this branch in this position for well over 10 years now. So we've been operating in slightly different ways. But this workshop menu, and my colleagues and I have been doing this since 2010-ish. So it's not new. We appreciate having platforms like Alan. Thank you so much for inviting us. Sometimes it's hard to get the word out just about what is available, and hey, we're here and we want to help. It's already paid for, so just let us know what we can do. But it's not new. We do have more products, and we do have better ways of disseminating data simply because we have computers and the internet now, which has been a nice change. But the program's not new, and while we're constantly producing more products, we have been around for a while, and we're just looking to make sure that people know we're here in case they need help with anything.
Thank you. So I have a question. So I take a lot of marketing classes, and what I have found is that I have been advised to go to my local library, and librarians are expert researchers, and to do that. So my question is, do you guys you mentioned individual attention, but is it kind of nope, sorry, we got to stop at 1 hour, or is it we just go? How do you what is the cutoff, I guess, of information?
No, so we're not, we're not going to cut you off at 61 minutes. So as we will spend as much time as we possibly can. We really are growing our team. We've got the resources available to you. And it's funny that you just mentioned libraries. That's actually we work with a lot of local libraries and large libraries to give presentations at libraries where people can come, and they'll do the outreach for us and make sure the community can physically be in person if needed, and bring your own laptop if not. I don't think you're gonna run out of my availability. You might run out of you might get bored with me before that happens. So I don't, it's not one of those time frame things. We'll make sure you get the data that you need.
Thank you very much. I look forward to
scheduling
a training with you.
I do too. Thank you, Catherine. Okay, what else?
There are no questions in the chat, but I see 2 hands raised. Nope, only one hand raised, and that was Catherine. So,
okay.
Jeanette, wait a minute. We got Jeanette Pigeon. If you would like to unmute and ask your question.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to be off camera though because I'm having a bad hair day working from home.
Quite all right. Trust me.
Hey, I am a center director for the Mojave County Small Business Development Center. So this information is fantastic. I would love to present or have somebody from your office present a workshop, like a virtual webinar would be fantastic.
Sure.
How should I contact you directly, Lacey?
Yeah.
Or?
So actually, and now that I'm not sure, I'm going to put in the, sorry, I couldn't actually put it in the chat, and I just realized how bright this light behind me has been the entire time. I apologize. I will put my email and phone number in the chat, and you can certainly do that. You also can go to our website where I showed and fill out the request form, but again, it's just going to come back to me. The easiest way is to just send me an email. So it's
perfect.
It's
I like
quick and
direct.
easy. Yeah, it's easy. It just cuts out one more step. And we can either, if you want to host them, you can on your, whatever platforms you use. We also use WebEx or Teams if you want us to set it up as well. So we're incredibly flexible. This is really just an overview. We can be as specific and go any direction you'd like.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
As soon as I complete, I'll make sure that my contact information is in the chat.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Lacey, this is Alan. I also wanted to let everyone know that the Arizona State Data Center is here, and we have direct connection to Lacey Lofton as our data dissemination specialist for the state. So if you can get hold of me, and my email is pretty much everywhere, especially on this meeting, you can get hold of Lacey. So if you somehow don't get her email, please feel free to email me, and we will get you in contact with Lacey as well. I just wanted to say that.
And you guys are so easy to work with too. It's been amazing the short period of time I've been lucky enough to work with the Arizona SDC. You guys are incredibly well connected. I feel like you know everybody in the state, and you've been awesome at connecting people. So thank you for that, Alan.
Sure. Are there any more questions for Lacey?
I am finished. I am 2 minutes over. It's all yours, Alan.
Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a 10-minute break.